All right, everybody, how you doing? Back for another week of the John Alite Show. The mob, the mafia, the man. These are the men. And we got a good one for you today. So subscribe, hit the button, hit comments, follow us. Any kind of comments you want, please send them in. The website, send them to any of us directly. And we got a good one. Let's get into something political today.
Hashtag. So what happens? What's the hashtag we're pushing?
Hashtag we're pushing.
Did I change my life?
Did I change my life? Yes, I did.
Yes,
Everybody
I did.
knows I did.
Hashtag.
Hashtag it and
Yes,
send it
I
to
did.
us. Yes, I did. Follow us. Make your comments.
Yes, I did.
Did we go to Did you go to prison?
Yes, I did.
Yes, I did too.
Yes, I
for
fucking
too
did.
many years.
I'm gonna have yes, I fucking did hashtag.
So what are we talking about today?
You know what I want to talk about, and it's a touchy subject for everybody, and it's a subject that needs to be talked about because it's about lives. It's about kids, and we talk about saving lives, but we got to start in the womb. We're going to talk about abortion.
Oh no, I didn't want to talk about abortion.
Got to talk about abortion.
This is a touchy one.
Well, I wanted to touch on something, and I think I've said my opinion on this, but here's something that no one ever talks about. You have deadbeat fathers. You have people that don't want to be dads, that that have a responsibility financially, emotionally for some kids. We know what the effects are when there's not a father around in the lives of children and young men and girls. The likeliness of them going to jail is ninefold more for people that don't know.
I think it's actually tenfold.
Well, you can have the extra fold.
I don't want extra anything.
So, it's really important, the subject, because if a man is going to be financially responsible on one end, he should also have a say when they're talking about abortions. You can't be the man's involved totally with the woman.
So here
on
comes the
one end.
rubber that meets the road here, right? He's throwing us in.
The rubber?
The rubber meeting the road, or the rub meeting the grind, or whatever you want to call it. Something's rubbing here right now. Because you're saying that we're going to have a choice, and if we impregnate a female, which today it's just females that we know of, right? That either we have a relationship with, a casual relationship, not that I would ever do anything like that, or a marriage, some kind of a domestic situation. So a woman gets pregnant, you feel you have the right.
I don't know. I'm not saying I feel I have the right. I feel this. If you go out, you go to a bar, and then 3 months or 4 months or a year later, you get a phone call, and she said, "Hi, I want to introduce you to your child." And the woman wants to collect money from you because whether you're involved or not, because you're the father of that child. Now, I do believe the father should be involved in that baby's life, financially and emotionally, not just financially. But if it's one way, it should have the other way also. If that person knows that he got a woman pregnant, he should have some sort of say of that woman aborting that baby or not. Now, the woman's going to say, which a lot say, well, the baby is in my body.
Right.
And the man's going to say, and that baby that's in your body is part of my body. So why is it you only want to call me for money, but you don't, and then I'm the father. But if it's not to do with money, I don't have a say in saying don't abort that baby. These subjects are not an easy subject for anybody.
No.
I don't
That's
know.
why I brought it up. I'm not sure myself on a lot of this stuff, where I stand. In one aspect, I think the father should be involved on both decisions. It should be a joint. I don't think a woman, and a lot of women aren't going to like what I have to say. You're going to say, well, I'm carrying a baby, you're not.
Yeah, like possession's 9/10 of the law. Is that what is that?
Yeah, but this is a responsibility. So you're looking at a sexual act. There's consequences to all of our decisions in life. In sex, there are some potentially life-changing consequences.
Yeah.
I can only speak for how I would do, but if a woman ever had my child without telling me, that would destroy me.
Well, I think that's a different moral approach.
That would destroy me.
But legally, I think that they should be obligated, if they know it's your baby or think it is, to tell you. And I'm going to tell you one of the reasons why I take the stand, not because we're men, that I take the stand for the man on this, that he has a choice in this, is because women, not like before, after the night of sex, and if it's a one-night stand or anything, have the ability to go to the pharmacy and take that pill so they can't get pregnant. They can't have that baby. They can do it the next day. If they choose not to do that, for whatever reason, that door
Then
closes.
you think they should notify the man and
Yes.
say, I'm choosing to
Yes.
Maybe they don't even know they're pregnant yet, because you said it's the next day. So the next day, the woman doesn't know she's pregnant,
Well, if
but
she
chooses not to
thinks
take
it was,
the precaution.
right. Well, she knows if possibly he stayed inside her. You know.
Well, let's say he did. Let's just
Sometimes-
say it happened.
Okay.
He
and
shot
she
his
Okay.
orgasm inside
Yeah,
her,
all
and
right.
there's sperm floating around.
So she had the chance the next day to just simply go to a store and take a pill, and it's over. And she doesn't have to worry. If she chooses not to do that, somewhere in the back of her mind, she's saying, well, if I get pregnant, I'm okay with it.
So 15, 16 weeks later, she decides, I'm not having the baby.
Okay.
And you never knew about it.
Right. And the guy didn't know.
Yeah.
I think that's, despite what people think, a lot of men do have big hearts and emotionally.
Would love to have a child.
Love to have a child, and they want to take care of the child. Whether you have a relationship or not, they'll stand by their obligation. So why is it that the men's feelings don't count in this?
That's always the problem I had. It's like the men aren't involved in any of the decision-making process. When if I was with a woman, she wanted to listen, I will pay for your health care, have the baby, and then you never have to see the baby ever again. I will take care of it, because that's the type of person that I am. Yeah. But on the other end of the spectrum, it's your body, your choice. You go do you, I'm going to do me, and then we'll be fine.
So, but when it comes to getting the injection for the virus with the vaccination, we want, most of us men that are on the conservative side of things, we want to have the choice to put.
It's not the vaccination. So let's clear that up.
Slow down. Let me finish.
Go ahead.
Let me show you the tie. So I want to have a choice, right? But the government is saying, if you want to work, you have no choice. So they're taking the choice. The government can, according to mandates, insist you get a vaccine, or else this you can't do. You can't do this. You can't do this. You can't travel. You can't go to the store. You can't go to a movie theater. You can't do, if you don't have a vaccination. So why I'm showing you this is, I get vaccinated. I got vaccinated twice. I don't want any more shots in me. I've had COVID. I got the weakest COVID you get. Got 6 weeks.
I think you gave me COVID.
You guys got
But go ahead.
You guys got to stop sharing a bed.
Yeah, well,
Well,
can't get them out.
It was that good, right?
I'm not good. That's another topic. It's not about
Save
abortion.
that.
Thankfully, there's nothing to abort. I think.
just for my own curiosity, who's got to get the abortion?
It's not gonna be. That's not gonna be discussed here. He's a very good catcher. Anyway,
You notice he took the bat away before he said that.
see, I was the pitcher. Everybody knows I play baseball.
so
I got the follow.
So the subject matter is, so I have a difficult time with this whole thing, because we call us anti-vaxxers, I'm not an anti-vaxxer. I'm pro-vax choice. So
Big difference.
listen, I'm just going to break it down so we can have this debate, or it makes some kind of, we can be in each other's shoes. The government is making you get vaccinated. So you can't fly, you can't do anything. We've been through this.
Well, they're saying for the safety of the country, but go ahead.
For the safety of the country. So they're taking your right away. The government is taking your right away and says, you must be vaccinated, otherwise you can't participate basically in society. So we don't want that, you and I. We definitely don't want that situation. I know I don't, and I'm pretty sure that you two guys don't want that either. I want it to be my choice to put this potential poison and deadly virus, antiviral, that could kill me, into my body. So I want the choice on that. Now,
but let's stop.
Let me finish.
Let's stop you for 1 second.
Okay, go ahead.
If the government forces you if they force you, I think if they want to take that position, we should say okay, but then you're liable for every death or every injury.
No, they indemnify themselves.
I know that.
I 100% agree with that.
Go ahead.
Now,
Continue.
did you ever read a book called Extreme Ownership by Jocko Willink?
No.
It's one of the best. I think Jocko Willink is
Oh,
probably.
you have a lot of time to read. I don't know what you must be working a government job. Go ahead. A lot of time to read books. For Christ's sakes, I'm driving all.
Why don't you read a good book that's up on the shelf right there?
there's
Gotti's
3
Rules,
books right
Prison
there.
Rules, Darkest Hour,
I've read them all.
Mafia International.
I have read them all.
He's
Okay.
a speed reader. I'm dyslexic.
So, Jocko Willink is probably one of the finest leaders that's ever lived. I'm telling you right now, if you read Extreme Ownership, you'll understand what I'm saying. So one of the things he says it's a bad idea for any leader to blindly mandate anything. If you explain certain, and you can't explain all the details because most people that are working underneath you will not see all the details, nor do they have to know the details. But if you present them to them and show them that it's not so much a choice as this is the right way to do things, which I don't think our government has done. I think it's failed miserably. But once you say you have to do it or else,
Then it's a problem.
What did Ronald Reagan say? One of the greatest presidents ever. The bigger the government, the bigger the problems. Keep the government out of our lives.
Right.
So
So that the nexus between the shot and abortion is not a direct correlation, but it's ownership of your body.
Yep.
Okay. Now,
I just had the same debate with one of my liberal friends. I swear to
the
you.
unique thing.
you know what we're going to keep doing, me and Kevin? We decided this because I keep getting emails. You cut us off. So me and Kevin decided we're going to keep cutting you off until we satisfy all our fans, our soldiers, and our friends. Tell me when it's okay for me not to cut them off anymore.
Hashtag yes, I can cut
Yes,
Mike out off.
I can. Yes, I did.
The unique thing about this argument for me is that, or this situation at hand is, two people were involved in creating this, whatever they want to call it. I would call it
Adam and Eve.
I would call it an unborn child. Some people will call it amoeba, whatever they want to call it, fetus. But so that's where
It's almost like the ownership of a company, of a corporation. The wife or the woman may have 70-80%, but the male does own some.
He's got an interest. He's got an interest in this,
Yes, he
right?
does.
So does his interest to say, listen, I know I impregnated you.
They say a man determines the sex, right?
Yeah.
If you hold their legs up, you're done.
Well, if you ask, what's her name? That was just Ashley. She'll tell you both. Right?
Don't start talking about Ashley because I
I'm
get
saying-
right into Scott and
I'm
basketball.
I'm saying
Me and
both.
Scott, that game, I'm coming for you, Scott. Go ahead.
So what do we do? Like the point is, I don't want anyone to mandate for me to do with my body, but over here the government's mandating everybody's got to. Oh, you can't. They'll start firing people from jobs, cops, firemen, sanitation, first responders of every resort, state workers. Federal workers. If you don't get vaccinated, military. They're firing men from the military that risk their lives to save this country every fucking day, and they're firing if they don't get a shot. Now, on the other side, we're telling this woman that you've been impregnated. The abortion issue that you and I sort of are pretty close to agreement on it. I'm not pro-abortion personally.
Neither am I.
I don't want to make that decision for somebody. But if I were intimately involved in making that thing happen, I might want to have some say in it. But is it 49-51 because the woman's carrying it? How does this go?
The two subjects you just brought up are on different sides of the political spectrum. Each of those. You have the abortion. Traditionally, and I'm not saying everybody thinks this way, traditionally, your pro-choice are left Democrat usually. Your anti-abortion people are right. Let's go to the vaccine. Mm-hmm. Your people who don't want to be told the vaccine, your pro-choice people per se, are right. Most of the people who want the mandates or who are okay with the mandates, most of the people are left. But it's the same subject, it's just flipped.
That's my point they're trying to make.
Yeah.
So you have...
But on equal ends of the spectrum of
yes.
the political.
Now,
The problem is if you let the government decide for us, they're the biggest fuck-ups around.
right, well, this is...
That's why they have us in trillions of dollars in debt. And I went through this on the other show. You have 16-year-old kids are allowed to kill at the order of our government.
Right.
But you're not allowed to drink until
Vote.
you're 21.
You can't vote.
You can't vote. But now they want to let 5, 6, and 7-year-olds change their body structure with hormones without the permission of their parents.
Right.
Again, anything the government does not make sense. So when you let them lead the ship and take us, they'll take us right down the slope and sink us all.
70 to 80% of the population in the United States does not trust the government. I read that.
Yeah.
I read that statistic.
Well, but they'd already raised that a little higher after Joe Biden can't spell his name.
Yeah, but you got some 70, 80% of the people don't trust our government. You're going to trust them to say that this is safe? Come on.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to cause hesitancy. I'm not.
No. Go get the facts if you want it, but you just have a choice. That's not the question. About the abortion issue. Now, you and I off camera here with no one around. Actually, I think we might have a discussion with Andrew on camera about, you said up to 15 weeks you would find it acceptable.
I believe on all kind of rapes, a woman should be able to abort that baby.
But do you think she should wait till it's 22 weeks old?
No.
Okay.
No.
Let's get that clear.
Okay.
I want to know your position. You're
Yeah.
taking a stand.
I'm taking a stand that
Kevin, what's your stand?
When a woman is raped and she doesn't know she's raped, or doesn't know the baby is from the rapist, maybe think it's from a husband or boyfriend, when she finds out, whether it's through DNA, through whatever way, and it's 5 months or 6 months even, I would say yes. The woman should not have to have that baby. Unfortunately, well, that's my opinion on this. It's something that it emotionally.
Took 6 months. Babies
how
can
that
live outside
baby-
the womb at 6 months.
Yeah, but emotionally, how can that woman? I don't know what she could feel like every time she holds that baby.
Yeah, I don't know
She's
either.
reliving that.
There's someone out there that might want to
rape.
come on the show and tell us.
Yeah, and she's reliving that rape. So I can't say. If I was a woman, I wouldn't have to go through
There
that.
might be someone out there that would want to come on the
It's a
show
tough
and tell us.
situation, but maybe there is a woman that would want to come on. I'd love to hear. It.
Yeah, I want to know.
But
I hate
again,
to
for
feel if it's painful. It may be the most joyous experience in the end.
It wouldn't be exploited. Like, we're not here to exploit anybody.
No.
We're here to educate.
Educate.
I just want people to give their opinion, because this is really something that's not so cut and dry.
No, and it's a current topic.
You got to remember something for the people that don't know. There was about 850,000 abortions last year.
Most of them
It's
in New Jersey, by the way. New Jersey's number one.
Well, it's down about 20% from what it used to be. Right? It used to be over 1 million.
Right. It was
So
over 1 million.
now there's a lot of reasons for that. There's
Right.
not as many pregnancies and different things.
Different
that are going
pills.
on,
They're
different
taking the
pills,
pill.
different things. So there's different reasons.
And the
for
guys
it.
are not having
Yeah.
sex with women anymore.
Yeah, that too.
There's a lot of
They're all having sex with Ashley.
transgender stuff going on.
So you still have. I mean, that's a lot of lives that are being removed from this earth.
Not as many that are crossing the border here free with no COVID vaccines down the south of the border here.
Well, the problem with the abortion issue is each side presents their case to the public in such a bad way because they use multiple adjectives and they play on the worst of human emotions. You have the pro-choice movement that says, well, this woman was raped and now she's got irritable bowel syndrome and she's got cerebral palsy and her father beat her and her husband. It just keeps piling on the adjectives. And the other side, the anti-abortion side will say, oh, this woman had it and she had
But I got to
cerebral
stop
palsy,
you on that.
and she had a miracle baby.
I want to be like Mike. I'm going to cut you off here for a second.
Like Mike, he's cutting him off.
I'm going to cut you off because
you have to take a dig at me just to cut him off. Just cut him off.
I just want to take a dig at both you guys for picking on me yesterday. So here's what I have to say. We say women's rights, but yet those same people are saying we can't use the terminology woman. So whose rights?
Right.
Is
Well,
it?
now you're getting
human
into
beings'
it.
rights.
Yeah.
No. Well, because I said they keep changing the.
They move the goalposts.
They move the goalposts on a constant basis. Our VP is not a woman. She's just a VP. So stop saying she's the first VP ever. You can't have it both ways, and they're trying to have it both ways. So now you have a person who's pregnant that needs to make a decision on having an abortion or not. I believe if that person should have the right within 15 weeks. Because if you don't know by 15 weeks, I want to know why you don't know if you're going to make the decision.
And then
No
if you
one's
can't
saying
make if you can't make the decision by 15 weeks,
Then somebody-
you probably shouldn't be raising.
Well,
the
because
child.
now you have an actual baby that's developing. That's
a good point.
And no one's there to protect the baby, right? So who's there to protect the baby? I understand
The Easter Bunny.
The other aspect of this. And where does the father come in and say he has a right to protect the baby?
This is the topic that we were sort of scratching over here before. What does the man ever come into play?
I have friends that are single parents. My friend John, he raised his son Eric. I'll keep his last name off this. His wife wasn't around. He raised him. He was a great mom and dad to that boy, right? Whatever their relationship is now is another subject.
Right.
But he's just one father I know that stepped up. There's tons of fathers out there that would step up and raise that baby by themselves. They would do a good job. They would financially help. They're not deadbeats. But yet, why is it a race like the father's emotions don't count?
So for the record, you would say, and this is a dialogue here, you would say that you're okay with a woman's choice up to about 15 weeks. You're okay with it?
Yes.
Rape, no rape, just a bad night, and so you're okay with up to 15 weeks. You're really saying that you're okay with it. That's what I'm hearing.
Yeah, I'm okay.
So you're okay with that, yeah. So, but at some point, the woman has had to make that choice.
I don't like that choice.
No,
by
I don't.
the way.
No, your personal
but I'm
choice.
okay with it.
Your personal choice is
No abortion.
okay.
My
me.
personal choice is definitely no abortion.
Yeah, my personal choice.
But no. Let me clarify that because that sounds awful. My personal choice is no abortion, but I do me. Okay, I am for everybody
That's
else.
why it's a personal choice.
Go do whatever you want to do.
That's why it's a personal.
No,
choice.
because if I say that, people are going to say, "Oh, you're an anti." No, I'm not.
no,
I'm
no.
actually pro-choice.
Yeah.
Myself personally, I would never do it.
Well, that's how. That's
The only thing that gets a little tricky with the pro-choice now is because they have the ability to take that pill. This is something, and I don't know that much about the pill and what it does to it and how dangerous it is, but I know they have the ability. But on a rape, no doubt, I believe a woman should be able to abort. But I am, my personal, if it was me, I would say I don't want the abortion. But again, it's a woman's body.
A woman
it's her
comes
choice.
to you that you dated
Yeah.
for a weekend or 6 months and says to you, Johnny, you know, I got knocked up. My period's late. I got the test. It says I had 2 positive tests within 3 weeks. I'm pregnant. You would say to her right now, just right now, make believe.
It's happened to me. So we got
This
all
week?
full
How
disclosure.
long ago?
Over the years. No, over the years.
Whose baby is that?
And you know, actually more than one. And I said to him, well, let me get the test and see if it was. And it wasn't. But if it was, I told him I would take
Oh,
responsibility.
so you stepped up and said,
Yeah,
but I want a DNA test to make
Yeah,
sure.
Yes.
Okay.
And it wasn't.
All right, that's all right. See, now that's a logical, fair approach. This is why we have these discussions here. We're learning. I didn't know you were so astute to order a DNA test because you didn't want that shackled on your back if it wasn't your child.
Right.
Right.
You know, I did try to say I had a baby in Brazil at one time for the people that don't know.
Yeah.
And that was to try to beat the system and not being able to get extradited back to the United States. So if the girl was a friend of mine, had a baby, and if she refuses to get a DNA test and she gets a lawyer, which I hired for her behalf, that says it's mine and I don't dispute it, we both didn't dispute it.
Right.
She
No
tried to
need for
keep me as
DNA.
the father of the baby.
Right.
There's nobody can force us to take a DNA.
Now you were tapping this chick while you were in prison.
That didn't work. No, I wasn't. It was a friend of mine that I was helping out with an attorney because I said to
You
him,
were tapping girls in prison, right?
If I stay. You worried about who I'm tapping? No. It's like Happy Gilmore.
No, when you were in
Tap,
prison.
Tap.
When you were
in Brazil, you can have
you can tap.
conjugal visits.
Yeah.
You can tap.
So it wasn't. I mean, it's as hellish as it was.
Do you want to hear about my sexual escapades?
You got laid in prison.
Yeah, but do you
But
want to
you
hear
are-
about
do
all
Do you
of
mind
them?
if I step out of the room?
No,
if you're
no,
gonna
I don't
start
wanna-
going
I
through
don't wanna
that?
hear-
Stop talking about our personal relationship on TV.
This is a personal decision.
Okay, so anyway.
TV. This isn't TV.
He's cutting me off again. That's why I cut him off at the beginning. I owe him 2 cuts. We call him Mikey Cuts now.
Mikey Cuts.
That's
Yeah,
it.
not
That's
Mike
his new
Cuts.
name.
I got to
So anyway, so when the girl said that I had her baby, I said I did. We were trying to stop the judicial
Extradition.
system of working extradition,
Right.
which didn't work out too well. But people still believe that that was my son. Going.
I saw a video of you.
Yeah,
I saw a video of you the other night when you're standing with the Brazilian police. They brought you out in front of the news and everything.
What did it say actually? Right? It said I was their
Yeah,
number one.
that deal with the number one
America's
wanted
most wanted.
mafia guy, and they had.
I guess they made it up to in Brazil.
I saw you laughing at them, like
because they put me in
you were
front of.
smirking at
There
them.
was 30 cameras from around every country snapping away, and they told me if I didn't answer the questions when they're finished, they're going to give me a beating. So I looked at him, I laughed. I says, "You're not even hiding the fact that you're going to give me a beating."
They said it on camera.
Yeah, they said it, and all the cameras, and you know they don't show that part. They cut it out.
Yeah.
So I says, "Well, what kind of beating am I getting?" And I made a joke of it.
And did they beat you?
Oh yeah, they followed through, gave me the beating.
Well, they were men of their word.
So on the because people are going to say, well, we got off topic on the abortion subject. You think up to 15 weeks between, but you prefer no abortion as long as you're a step up guy. You are a step up guy, and you think,
I love kids. So
yeah, and I know, but you think think guys should step up. I love kids too, but I like them when they're between 5 and 15. After that, before that, I'm not.
I think if our government would stop involving themselves in everybody's life and pay attention to helping more of the fathers that are not being stand-up fathers to the kids and try to teach a little more of that in school instead of agendas that they have, I think the agenda should be, instead of critical race theory, is talking about parenthood. The same they do to us in prison. You know that. They have parenting programs in prison to re-educate some of us from the streets to realize what we're doing in our families by going to jail. Relationships. It's very hard to have a relationship in 300 minutes on a telephone.
But you're asking and this is not a new concept. It's laissez-faire. You know, it's Jeffersonian politics. You're talking about small government. Laissez-faire is French for hands off. All right. He was a big proponent of laissez-faire economics. Government keeps their hands off. Small government can do that. At what point should the government step in and do something if they see it's getting out of control? I'm speaking in hypotheticals here.
Yeah. I think the government should stay the hell out of everybody's lives and stop stealing our money. And if they stop stealing our money, we could have a lot more programs for single moms, single dads,
or encourage
foster kids.
Encourage adoptions.
Yeah, there's a lot of programs they could put in. And now that I'm on the subject of the government, let's talk about jail real quick. For the guys that are in jail that want to be parents to their sons and daughters, our government does not allow for them to be parents. You can't be a parent for 300 minutes. They make visits very difficult. But the biggest thing is you have single moms out on the street, whether they're inner city mothers or anywhere else. The phone calls alone for the inmates, they break a family. Yeah. They charge them more for clothing, sneakers, than they do on the streets.
Right,
they charge for hygiene more than they do on the street, and they're getting away with it because, again, our politicians are sticking their hands in everywhere and getting an end. Yeah, they're getting kickbacks all over the place.
When I was up in I think it was McKeon, one of those places, they did an audit of the commissary, and they said, well, these are 7-Eleven prices.
If me and you took over the commissary, we can get rich and we can save the inmates 50% of their money.
Yeah.
Right, because 7-Eleven, don't forget, has to pay shipping fees. They have to pay franchise fees.
We all know 7-Eleven prices. If you buy a bar of soap, it's $4 now.
Right, just to explain what the difference between is.
Yeah, or Costco, you can buy the same soap for 60 cents.
So the problem is, again, the average citizen. Well, I love like when these guys, this transportation guy, what's his name? The guy that took the fraternity, but he's talking about I'll pay this much money for gas and I'll do this. Well, you make a couple of $1 million between all your thievery and everything else. The inner city kids from my neighbor and their mothers and fathers, they can't afford gas. We can't afford these numbers and these prices. Can't afford the electric bill. Can't afford to heat your house.
So when they make a choice to have a child, there's a lot of...
if they would stop stealing our money, you could subsidize some of these programs.
Well, I mean, that's a good point.
They're stealing
if they just
like
took how much money do you think's in the commissary fund in McKeon?
Oh my God! I want to know who has the commissary.
Let me explain how it works. Just a little off topic.
We spoke about this earlier, and
Who's me?
What's that? You and I, because you had mentioned something on a previous show
I did,
about how you had to pay whatever it was for extra saltines. Or what it was.
Yes.
And I was like, I've never been to prison, so I'm thinking they got to pay for that. Most people don't know this stuff.
Right. So. The commissary fund, when I was in one of the two, I was in several prisons, two of them for extended periods of time, was the commissary fund had a balance of over $10 million at the time that I was there. I couldn't tell you if it was Mariana or McKeon, but that fund is an established fund that's controlled by the warden of that prison.
Well, let me tell you, I'm going to give you some...
Do you know what that means?
Yes, but I'm going to tell you...
Do you know what that means?
Yeah, I know what it means.
He takes that $10 million and invests it. The warden's in charge of that fund.
Yeah, but this is no different than Brazil. When me and Klaus were in Brazil, we caused riots in the facilities. Everybody knows we were behind the riots. They made a movie, a series on Klaus's life with me in it, about what we did to those funds in those prisons, because we knew when the warden was put in charge, he takes that money, he pockets it, and he shares it with all the top police of that community. Right. They all get an end. They get very rich off of us. Yeah. And people that commented about this was like, wow, Brazil's corrupt. And I started laughing. I go, Brazil? I'm talking now in the United States.
The American
you
system,
have
probably.
Bush. You have Bush. That was and presidents like him that were controlling these funds and putting their friends there that run the commissary.
Yeah, well, FBI,
like you go,
ex-FBI directors,
who's got their food line in jail?
Yeah.
You know who does?
Yeah,
Palmer,
the
ball player,
yeah.
who was very good friends with Bush.
Yeah.
Me and you can't get in there, but they can get in. So when you take Donald Trump,
the guy was Bob Barker.
Now let me get
the whole federal system.
Let me get to my man. The reason why they hate Trump is because That president, number 45, is the only one that wasn't grabbing all this money that was being made.
That was filling up
they
his
hate
friends in
him.
his own pocket.
Both sides hate him, Republican,
Right.
Democrat,
Right.
because he's not allowing them to take all these shortcuts of stealing.
Right.
So they hate him.
Right.
They want to get rid of him. They want him to go away somehow. They want to keep harassing him to stop him. Because if they could stop him, they could keep up the corruption. The problem is the Democrat and Republicans, all the people, our society needs to say, hey, stop stealing. But they don't. They're so weak. They don't go after the government that is stealing what they're doing to us.
They need Andy Dufresne.
When
from
you have a
Shawshank.
$10 million fund and you have a small community like McKean, Pennsylvania, that means you have power. The only thing was the Flippo, the lighter company. What's the
Bic.
Zippo lighter company is based out of McKean or Bradford, Pennsylvania. $10 million fund. Now he controls that fund and invests that fund in, let's say,
Probably putting a big built-in pool in his house.
McKean Bank.
Yeah.
Bank. McKean Bank. So takes the 10 million, just making names up, takes the 10 million. You give him 4% interest, but you give him 5% interest. So he took $10 million of I'm just giving you an example. I'm not saying
I get
specifics. So that $10 million, now he's getting back 1-2% in his own pocket. If he could keep it in this bank. And then every commissary, every person in the town has a vegetable store that supplies. They have a shoe supply store that supplies sneakers. They have a meat warehouse. They have pig farms, and a lot of these places are on farms. A lot of these federal prisons are on farm or located to dairy farms. So everything is a hub of business, and in the end, the inmate's family is broken by the cost of the greed within the system that's built in.
So getting back to the abortion issue, the inmates in these prisons are no different than the men when it comes to abortion. We get fucked and we don't get anything in return. We don't have any say in where our money goes.
Brother, we're involved all over the media about the Ukrainian and Russian war. Let's not bullshit anybody because the average citizen is dumb. They really don't follow politics. Yeah. They don't read. They don't know what's going on. This is about oil. This is about minerals. This is about the Black Sea controlling the ports.
Right.
Putin is winning that war. He controls the oil, 90% of it. He controls the Black Sea. He's controlling. And our president is not too cognitive. He stepped in Ukraine prior to this war. He instigated a lot of this.
Yeah, I know.
He's talking about the gas prices are up because the people that aren't knowledgeable are buying that. Oh, it's because of Russia. Oh, it's because of this, and which is nonsense. We had this problem way before that war. This is just another excuse. He had his hands in the pocket of Ukraine. Biden did. His family did.
Obama did.
His son did. Obama did since 2012.
Hillary had her hands in there.
And they could say what they want. They instigated a situation not because they care about the Ukrainian people, because anybody that's too stupid to believe they care, we care about the Ukrainian people. Average people care about people.
Right.
Our governments care about chess moves.
Right.
And Ukrainian people, they don't care about them because they don't care about our own people.
Right.
They don't care about the fentanyl that's coming in this country. They don't care about 150,000 people that are dying. Without a war, there's a war. They don't care about our border, but they care about that. So when they're selling that nonsense, people that buy that propaganda are just not worldly or not educated or too lazy to understand what's going on. So going back to abortion,
yes,
it's the same thing. This government doesn't really take a side because they care morally.
Yeah.
It's where they stand financially.
They're not trying to save somebody's life here. First of all, the abortion rules were put in place. I don't know if you know this. I didn't do a lot of research, so don't misquote me. I don't want to misquote. But it was to keep down the African-American population initially.
So you're talking about Margaret Sanger.
Okay, so you know
All right,
a little bit.
it's eugenics. So Margaret Sanger.
This is why we have a smart
This is
guy
what. Well, listen. I know a little bit. I just throw the pebble in the water.
I run the show. It's my show. I bring one.
I throw the pebbles.
I can't give him an adjective
have
right
one
now.
good idea in
I'm a
an
smart
hour.
guy.
and the waves start to go.
So you're talking about Margaret Sanger.
Yes.
Margaret Sanger is the founder of Planned Parenthood, because Margaret Sanger did not establish Planned Parenthood for the better good. Margaret Sanger believed in that people of a different race, particularly black people, should not reproduce because she was a huge.
Now you
racist.
studied this. You're not just
Yeah, this is true.
But I knew
This
it was.
is true.
I knew there was something behind this. I didn't
Everybody
know-
thinks she's so benevolent.
Yeah,
Oh,
no,
what a
no,
nice.
no,
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 she
that-
really didn't want black people breeding because she didn't feel that the black race should continue. All right, so she brings in Planned Parenthood.
You're not making these words up. This was in writing.
This is in writing.
Okay.
This is just like the Marijuana Tax Act of 1938. Like I got all this stupid stuff in my head.
It's okay. We need it. That
so-
stupid stuff matters sometimes.
So the idea behind Planned Parenthood was very, very bad. It was very
Yeah,
racist.
no, it was.
And somehow it's become bastardized as in a battle cry for people who are pro-choice. Oh,
Right.
they have the right to do this. They have the right to do this. And I do believe people have the right to do this. But don't ever think and don't ever use history on your behalf unless you know the full story.
Well, we hear that all. We hear that all the time
Well-
with 1619 project or whatever you want to call it. History. They change the facts of history.
Oh yeah,
Just to fit a
no,
different narrative.
For those people who
the
don't
evil American country.
for those people who don't think that history hasn't been changed, the Civil War. Do you know quickly? I know we're changing this real quick. Do you know why the Civil War was fought
I'm
between
going
the
to let
North
you
and the
answer
South?
it.
Everybody thinks the Civil War was nowadays. The South has been able to change the dynamic of it by saying it was over states' rights. It wasn't over states' rights. It was over slavery. All right, it was over slavery.
Right.
All right, and years ago,
States' right to have slavery or not.
so that's one. That's one. They just recently asked the CNN guys, like, well, he said something like, well, Republicans voted against slavery. No, Republicans voted for slavery, Democrat. But that was how the history has been changed. The history of Planned Parenthood, Margaret Sanger, that has been changed, been bastardized
Well, I don't know
to
about
fit
that.
their
I
need.
think you might have just. Abraham Lincoln was a Republican president. And he,
Right.
Well, the Republicans,
Democrats were really pushed.
Tried to go against.
Republicans did not want
Democrats.
slavery.
Republicans
You
did
said it
not.
wrong,
You
though.
said the opposite.
You said it wrong.
The
I
Republicans did
apologize.
not want slavery. The Democratic Party
Democrats-
one did.
Yeah, so the
Republicans were the ones who voted for
Abolishing.
Right.
women's rights to vote.
Yes, they
Yes.
did.
And somehow all of this has been changed.
Yes, it
All has been
absolutely has.
So history has been able to be changed. And what I'm coming back to with Margaret Sanger is Margaret Sanger was an incredibly racist woman who started something because she felt that the black population should not survive.
Well, let me get into this because people don't like to talk about it, but I do talk about it because I don't have a racist bone in my body, and
Right.
I'm more upfront about this. You have a lot of the black community, a big part of it come from single parenthood.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
So we know that.
65,
But the
70%.
part we don't know is the government that pushed this agenda.
Ugh.
And I'm going to go back into the government that tries to con my friends and con our neighborhoods
Yeah.
and tell you they care about our communities and keep sending our money overseas and not to our neighborhoods, not to education. And they could say what they want again. And I'm going to speak factually. President Trump signed 10 years up front with Tim Scott, the university and black college funding.
Right.
So when people say, why didn't Obama do it? I want to know why. Why doesn't anybody talk about it? Why didn't he do it? So when you talk against Trump, you better know what his policies were. But when you talk about why are these single parents, mothers and fathers in the black communities, why isn't anything done to change this? Why isn't education in schools done to change this? Why isn't funding going into helping them and not into Iran to build another bomb that they hate America? So, or why we sending trillions of dollars to Ukraine, and I feel bad for Ukraine. But how about I do feel bad for the kids from my neighborhood that are not getting help. Go ahead.
I don't want to cut off.
Go ahead, Mikey.
No,
Cuts.
here's what happened. In the 60s, New York City and other northeastern cities needed votes. So they invited people from the South to come up here in busloads. Now, I'm going to speak from knowledge, not from a tablet. And what they did was they bought votes in the 60s. And they insured the votes. Now, I know this because when I was a cop in Brooklyn in the 80s, there was a lot of North Carolina, South Carolina, and Georgia license plates on cars. And I would always say, now think about this. The 60s and now the 80s. And they had these big deuce and a quarters, and they were loaded with clothes. And, of course, the racist slang comments was they live in their cars. But the reality was they lived back and forth from the South to the North ongoingly. They all had farms. And I say all, many of them were sharecroppers, farmers, whatever you were at that time in the South. And they encourage them to move to the northern industrial areas to take on jobs. But you don't want someone with a child because they can't work, right? Abortion pays off right away in that situation. One, it's a little fugazi there, but it's part of what I'm getting at. Two, they needed a voting base. And how do you keep a voting base is you give them things. They gave them housing. They gave them clothing fund awards. They gave them free, everything they could was free so that they became, now these are farming families that are out there plowing their fucking fields and selling their vegetables and tobacconists, whatever it was. They took them from their, by the way, some of them very well-to-do, and they put them in these cities and they created an underclass so that they can control them. Now, think about the years, the 60s, they brought them up. I run into these guys in the 80s who are now in their 40s. So,
Andrew, I wish your wife was here for this part.
yeah. So now they're in their 40s.
You're taking too long.
I know, but they're in
I want to cut you, but go ahead.
but they're in their 40s, so they've been here, come back and forth for 20 years.
Okay, so now here
But
we're going to...
there's not a lot of children around.
Let
because
me
they're being aborted.
Okay, let me replace what you're saying to 2022.
Go ahead.
The reason they're allowing these groups to come in to this country with an open border now, and here's what Governor Abbott, by the way, in Texas made a big mistake. He's sending busloads to D.C. He needs to send them to Delaware.
Martha's Vineyard.
He needs to send them Delaware.
Right
to Joe Biden's front door.
Right.
So
I think they are. I think they
they're
are.
replacing my friends. and their
DeSantis is doing
family.
it. Go ahead.
No, I'm talking about what they're doing with the
DeSantis is sending them to Delaware.
No,
Okay.
Governor Abbott. DeSantis is Florida.
He's sending them to Delaware. Go ahead.
He is.
So what they're doing is they're still not helping my communities in my neighborhood in Brownsville, in South Jamaica, in Camden, in South Side of Chicago, where Bugatti lives, or any of these areas. They're replacing again the black and brown that live here.
Yeah.
And they're bringing in other immigrants
Right.
because they need their base
Control.
again for voting and control.
So they're doing the same thing they did.
But wait,
what's going on here.
okay, but let me finish. Don't cut me off. This is the kicker of it. It takes, under normal circumstances, about 6 months to get a work visa. Now, with the millions they're letting in, it's going to take them at least 2 years to get work visas for these people that are coming in. And those jobs are going to be taken from the inner city kids and their families. They're not going to be able to get the jobs. They can't get their funding anymore because they're giving their money to the new immigrants that are coming in. And again, they shit on the black and brown community.
Yes.
And no one's seeing it. And it's frustrating because those are my friends, my family, my peers that I grew up with, the people that we're trying to change
Guys
their
that
lives.
love that we're helping them.
Okay, and then they want to say they're having too many babies and they're not fathering them because they're advocating all this. They're pushing this agenda. They're backdooring them. And again, let me clear it up. This is why we call this the mob, the mafia, and the men. Because I understand the mob mentality and the mafia. It's all our tactics. They're using it against my friends in the inner city. And everybody needs to wake up because they're controlling us by keeping you in poverty. And that's the cause of the raise of prices, so my friends can't pay their rent. And when they go out and commit crime, and then the government says you can have freebies, run inside and get free stuff because you guys are peasants. We're going to give you a couple of crumbs. Go after the rich. This is all a game they're playing, yet they have private security, and then they go against the police because they got to defund them. They got to have a bad guy. It's the uniform guy. That's in a wrap. Thank you.
Well, that was an interesting one. I'm glad we didn't have anything to talk about today.
Well, we touched on a few things.
We touched on a few things.
Anybody that wants to come in and touch on this subject, write your comments. We want to hear them. We want to answer them. We got an open mind. This isn't our opinion and not your opinion. We want everybody's opinion. Anybody that's interested to come on our show, they're involved in the healthcare industry, you're involved in abortions, you're an ex-cop, an active police officer, fireman, first responder, or just a neighborhood guy, and you come from the hood, get in touch with us. We'd love to have you on. We want to hear your opinions. True John Alite on Instagram.
Hit the bell.
Like and subscribe at Real Kevin Donaldson, at The Mic'd Out on Instagram, and also johnelite.com.
Hit our website. Thanks, guys.
New York City.